He's the most radical Catholic leader for generations. Since his election to the papacy in March 2013, Pope Francis has been heralded by modern Christians for bringing Catholicism into the 21st century. Through his progressive views on climate change, homosexuality, and evolution. But evangelical Christians are wary of the Pope's alleged leftist attitudes and believe that he has besmirched the name of Catholicism, especially when this happened.
The agreement includes official recognition by the Holy See of the State of Palestine, which contributes to the shared vision of the two parties for peace and justice in the region.
On the 13th of May 2015, the Vatican granted diplomatic recognition to the State of Palestine. Literal readers of the Bible claim that this means Pope Francis has undermined the holy state of Israel, igniting suspicions that he could be the false prophet of the apocalypse. For evangelical Christians, Israel is central to the biblical end times prophecy, which describes the end of the world and the return of Christ. The Vatican's acknowledgement of Palestine puts Pope Francis in a difficult position, because, according to evangelicals, he is threatening the beliefs of thousands of Christ's followers by rejecting the Israeli state. This has led many to believe that the Catholic Church and its leader are mentioned as a treacherous force in the Book of Revelation. In The Woman and the Scarlet Beast, it foretells that on her forehead a name was written, a mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Evangelicals believe the mother of harlots is an allusion to the Vatican, and the following verse is therefore referring to Pope Francis. The beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. His recognition of Palestine alone would perhaps not be enough to mark Pope Francis as a prophetic biblical threat, but along with his other controversies, he's the frontrunner for the false prophet. In July 2013, when discussing homosexuality within the Church, Pope Francis declared that if someone is gay and he searches for the Lord, who am I to judge? In September that same year, the Pope broke traditional Vatican protocol again when he told atheists that you don't have to believe in God to go to heaven. In October 2014, Pope Francis denounced creationism. And in June 2015, the Vatican held an environmental conference to discuss effective methods to reduce climate change, after the Pope wrote an urgent encyclical on global warming, the first ever papal letter dedicated to the environment.
Pope Francis speaks about a sustainable development. He doesn't want to give recipes, it's not up to him, but he says that the political leaders must care about these issues.
For many conservative Christians, views that are leftist or pro-Palestine are readily interpreted as anti-Israel, and at the most extreme, anti-Semitic. It's exactly these sort of left-wing attitudes that have evangelicals fearful of increased conflict in the Middle East. They interpret this as the beginning of the end. The Book of Revelation foretells that there will be great wars, disease, and suffering during the end times. The lands will be ruled over by the Antichrist and the false prophet, who is described as a religious leader who deceives the nation with his humility and honest demeanor. These favorable characteristics are often attributed to Pope Francis. Currently, political instability in the Middle East arises from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Syrian civil war, extremist armies like ISIS, and boiling tensions between emerging nuclear powers. This instability appears to parallel the apocalyptic predictions of violence across the region. All of this has some Christians suspicious that Pope Francis is indeed a false prophet mentioned in the Book of Revelation. False prophet or not, the Pope's liberal stances have gained both praise and criticism. Right-wing radio presenter Michael Savage has branded Pope Francis a Marxist wolf in Pope's clothing. But humanists like Parker Marie Molloy have reminded people that the Pope is, first and foremost, a religious figure, not a political mouthpiece, and that his so-called progressive opinions are still formed within a conservative institution that prevents women from taking leadership roles within the Church and opposes equal marriage. Yet his views are still enough to rattle evangelicals, who have believed that the Vatican is the Revelation's harlot of Babylon since the Middle Ages. The Catholic Church's acknowledgement is yet another victory for Palestine in its pursuit for international recognition. But for some, it could mean that the second coming of Christ is just around the corner. The question is, whether or not you think Christ's deliverance of humanity into heaven is a bad thing. On November the 12th, 2010, Reverend Efrain Rodriguez wrote to NASA claiming that a colossal asteroid would one day hit Puerto Rico,